Good morning, my freak nasties. Take your clothes off and open your eyes. It's a beautiful day. This is We Are Live. See how that rhymed? Like one of those rappers.
Keep waving. There you go. It's a good wave.
I want to drink my coffee now.
Okay. Take a sip.
Okay, I'm going to do that, but I'm going to have to put my hand down from waving.
That's fine.
Okay.
I'm gonna. Okay. There we go.
Hello.
Mm-hmm.
How's your morning? Oh, there's still a little coffee. Oh, I like it how I like my women. With their mouth shut.
Doesn't make any sense.
Start the damn show, Denman.
When do you deploy?
That's good. That's a good one. Damn it. Maybe this comedy by osmosis thing is actually coming true for you.
It's Chris Stedman, Travis Terrell. It's We Are Live. Good morning. Happy Monday, everybody. Excited to be here. If you haven't yet, hit share on the Facebook stream. Kind of annoyed with you that you haven't yet. Excited to be here. We all had very busy weekends. Plenty to get to talk about live from the Midcoast studio. But let's say hello formally to Aunt Crystal, the stream queen, Chris Gardner. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Hey, Dad.
Good morning, Walnut.
Put it up, Chris. It's Monday. You got to put it up. There you go.
And happy Cocktoberfest Eve.
Whoa. The leaves are changing.
Mm-hmm.
The wind is a-blowing.
Mm-hmm.
The cockness
Mm-hmm.
is en route.
Gonna get cocky.
It's going to get very cocky, Chris. Are you excited? Big month coming up for your people and your culture.
I met the patron saint of Cocktoberfest last night.
Oh, yes.
I don't know if we want to get right into it, but yeah, I'm feeling cocky.
See, now I'm ready to have a debate on that because I am ready to argue that the individual that I believe you have in mind belongs to my community. But if that's how you want to start the show, let's get it on. Shall we?
Please, let's go, baby.
Boys and girls, We Are Live's finest co-host, Chris Denman, spent time with music legend, Grammy Award winner, and Ferguson's finest, Michael McDonald last night.
Hey, what's up, Mike?
Look, you could be related to him.
Hi,
Look like he could be
Chris.
your...
Good flow.
I ain't
How are
gonna-
you doing, Chris?
I ain't gonna lie. Does Larry Dog have any questions about who his oldest son is?
Taking it to the Farmington streets.
You look oddly alike. What the hell is that all about? Michael McDonald, of course, performing
Great flow.
at the Two Hill at the University of Missouri St. Louis last night in St. Louis for a lovely charity benefit.
What's the charity benefit?
Night for Life.
Oh, you just read that off my shirt.
Well, I'm sorry that I was right. But it was a fine evening where it was a tribute to Michael McDonald and his contributions, of course, to music and to the greater St. Louis metro area. Had some outstanding tribute videos to Michael McDonald during about a 90-minute concert. Videos from Patti LaBelle, Shaka Khan, Christopher Cross.
This is a Q&A beforehand. Tim Azell hosted that. It's Brian Owens, friend of the show, and Michael McDonald. It was really cool.
It was a really neat event. It had even a tribute video, Gardner, from the great Pat Riley.
What?
Pat Riley sent in a tribute video to Michael McDonald. Michael McDonald, I believe, had performed, I think, either at a anniversary dinner for
Really?
Pat Riley and his wife. And they sent a very nice tribute letter. The great Jeff Bridges also sent in a
What?
tribute video as well during the ceremony last night. So it was a really, really cool event. Of course, some of his bandmates from the Doobie Brothers sent in also. Had a nice video also from Kenny Loggins, the great Kenny Loggins. It was... He had a very cool story about how him and Michael first met and how they started collaborating on music. And of course,
Kenny Loggins, the one from Archer?
yes,
That one?
Yes,
Wow.
the great Kenny Loggins. And then, of course, our now brother, Brian Owens. It was my first time watching Brian perform. And let me just say, the man's a star. So it was a great night of celebrating, of course, some of the youth in the Ferguson area, celebrating the community as a whole. Michael McDonald taking the time to come home to celebrate as well. And it
Was
was
T-Pain there?
T-Pain, unfortunately, could not make the event.
I interviewed Michael McDonald
And you
for
did- were-
Brian
were you
Owens,
afraid
for
to bring it
Soul
up?
Ferguson. I did bring it up, and we discussed it, and I've got audio that we can share. He laughed. He was like, "What happened there?" He goes, what was that?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's a sore subject here."
I think the fun part about the evening for me, and it was really the performances, because Kennedy Holmes, of course, who was a finalist on the last season of The Voice, by the way, a tremendous talent. that
I
young
interviewed
woman
her
is.
as well, and she's 14, and she looked me in the eye and like was super confident and stood up straight, and like I joked and I was like, "NBC, they really got your media ready, huh?" And she was like, "Oh yeah." She was like, "They put me through the ringer," and I was just like, I'm really weirded out right now.
Yeah,
And
I'm
like,
not used to this.
you are, she was just so great.
She's
yeah.
she's still 14, 15?
She's 14, yeah.
She
14,
has
yeah.
a stage presence of an R&B singer that's been doing it for 20 years.
I-
Like it was it was so
I
impressive.
watched her in rehearsal, and I was just like, I need to leave the room.
It was so natural. It was like the people around us, like they were, and we were surrounded by a lot of the children who were a part of Brian's organization, and so they were huge fans of Kennedy. They're very excited, and that means the world. We talk a lot about representation. To have Kennedy Holmes to be from your area and to perform as well as she did on national television, and then to come home and for children to see her, and they were
to the street.
she took it to the streets. It was a fun night. And Michael McDonald, like, you know when you're a legend when as soon as the first key to a song hits and black women lose their mind. You know that's the definition of a legend. If you can be immediately identified by a key of your song and black women over the age of 40 lose their mind, you are technically a legend. Because every time a song of his came on, when that dropped, man, look, it was a very family-oriented, wholesome, but there were some ladies who
Hey,
kind of
take
went
it
back
easy.
and they were like, my draw, I can't.
So at
I'm with
least-
my husband and my grandma's here, so I'm going to keep my drawers in my pocket.
So there was
Same
no
time.
one like what was the actor that was on stage where the lady she had taken the time to help herself. Remember you
I
guys
do, yes,
discussing
who
that
was
story?
watching Mr. Tom Hiddleston
Okay.
at a Broadway play in New
So
York.
we avoided that at least.
Yes, for what we are aware of. But Michael McDonald still has that fastball. Still has it. He does
my
it.
gosh.
He does it. It's
Wait till you see the
amazing.
interview, which was filmed for Soul Ferguson and Brian Owens, Life Arts Inc., and all that good stuff. And big shout out to our friend Nathan Kilberg for just being a killer audio engineer. But sitting there talking to him and just hearing why he cares about the area still, like he hasn't lived in Ferguson or St. Louis in many, many years. And just the importance of him feeling like he needed to support and just everything that he did, he was just so with it, so aware of his place and very humble. The guy's got 5 Grammys. He's
Song of the Year. We're not talking like
people he's worked with, man. Like alongside, I mean, like think about how many times him and Mick Jagger have been in the same room, or you know what I mean? He was part of the Doobie Brothers, man. Like,
and he had people
and then
like
his own stuff.
And you had you had people like Patti LaBelle. She mentioned in the videos.
Yeah.
Like, if I had to do a duet, and I don't know too many duets, I was like, the only person I'm doing it with is Michael McDonald.
That's crazy.
Like, so when you have someone like Patti LaBelle and Shaka Khan say, nah, Michael McDonald, the truth. These are some of the most brilliant voices of any generation. And that just goes to show you, not only is he an amazing performer, but I think he's one of the most underrated songwriters of that generation. So, I mean, it was such a fun event. Congratulations to everyone that was involved. It took an entire village to make that all happen. And it came off, again, from an audience member. I know Chris and a lot of others here inside of Midcoast were doing a lot of inside ball game, but from the person from the outside, like I was, who was just enjoying the night, I thought it was just a brilliant evening and a ton of fun. But to the point of the debate, we talk about Michael McDonald and, of course, his impact on soul music, R&B music. Now there becomes a question, especially since we're on the eve of Oktoberfest. Michael McDonald, race draft. Where is he going?
I don't know the whole lyrics, but I have a saying or a song from Michael McDonald that would apply to you in this situation, and it's "What a Fool Believes."
I knew it was
Listen,
going there.
son.
I knew it was going there.
How dare you?
What a
How
build-up.
dare you?
No, he's ours.
He's they're saying
I don't know.
You're trying to.
I don't know.
You're
Guy
trying
went
to
to-
take that Ferguson cred.
Yeah.
I think
That
that,
guy
North
went-
County is huge. North County,
I'm from
that's
North
big.
County.
He went
Yes,
to-
and you are technically part of our community.
Well, no.
What do you smoke?
No.
What do you smoke?
What? Newport.
Ah, so I'm
But
sorry.
I'm conflicted because I'm also part of White Flight. Because then I moved to St. Charles County.
But where are you now? You're back in the city.
Yes. It makes no sense.
Because according to my records, and I check the race records every morning,
Thank you.
you are a part of the black community. I'm sorry. So I think that we're willing to maybe make certain trades to assure that Michael McDonald remains or should belong in the black community.
Remains. Yeah, I don't think.
There were too many black women screaming Michael McDonald's name last night for him not to be in our community.
Who does black women love Ed Sheeran?
Younger black women don't mind.
Do you
Ed
claim
Sheeran.
Ed Sheeran?
I think Ed Sheeran is not in the black community, but I wouldn't necessarily put him in the white community either. I think he's a free agent.
Was it Purgatory?
Yeah, he's just out there. He's a free agent. He's
Race
like
purgatory?
He's like Antonio Brown right now.
Okay.
We're gonna do a little bit more.
Oh, he's yours.
Damn it. Okay, here. How about this? We will give back Eminem and Donald Trump if we get to keep Michael McDonald.
I guess it depends on who you're talking to.
I think he's in our community. Well, we'll ask. You
How
should have.
did you
Did
have-
you ask him? You should
how did
ask
you
him.
have
You have him
Trump?
on speed dial now. Ask him. Hey,
We are close personal friends at this point.
His mentee is Brian Owens. I'm just saying. Pat Riley. Who made that argument? You made that argument earlier this year about Pat Riley. I asked name a white man who has taken more black people to the promised land, and you said who? You said Pat
Steve
Riley.
Kerr. Chris Rock has a bit on Pat Riley.
I think it's Pat Riley. I say, yeah, I think if you have a relationship with Pat Riley vis-a-vis, Pat Riley's in the black community. So
What if Michael McDonald would have been on that yacht with Dwayne Wade and Pat Riley dancing?
I think they may have been. And I think they may have been. The way Pat Riley talked about it in the tribute video, they have a pretty close friendship, it looks like. So I would not have been surprised if he was on that yacht.
I think you're assuming that white people can't have soul.
I think history has illustrated that is a lane that is
Maybe
occupied by a lot
next month
of.
we can illustrate how wrong you are.
Okay. Now, I think the argument that you may went on is, of course, he
We
is
have to have a
indeed-
poll question.
It is. He's the captain of Yacht Rock. And so I think that also is what maybe strengthens your argument.
Yeah, most
But I
certainly
think
does.
that definitely belongs. I think that may be something that we have to give to Schaefer because I want to get all the demographics for this particular poll. What community?
It's funny when you decide to dig into something.
I'm very passionate about this, Chris. 'Cause
Yeah.
I can't forget about you anymore. It was so damn good. Michael McDonald still got it. He got the fastball, man.
Yeah,
he
he
got
does.
the fastball.
He certainly does.
Like you can't when you hear that voice, you can't help but go, "Hey man, this is gonna be a good ass time." And he could sing. That brother can sing.
Don't say brother.
That's what.
Don't try that.
There were two, and then he was taking it to church. He was taking it to church a couple times, Chris. And y'all know y'all don't do the organs in church like we do. And Michael McDonald, the way he was playing like he was in a black church. I will make this will be my argument for Oktoberfest.
I would ask him, Michael, have you thought about, mortality at all and what your funeral might look like? How long would it be?
It's gonna be a plus.
And that could maybe define. What if he says like 2 hours?
And
Then we're both like, "Oh, that doesn't help any of us.
That's a 4-hour funeral. That's a 4-hour. There's no doubt in my mind. There are too many people in the black community that will show up to.
Patti LaBelle.
Patti LaBelle showing up. That's a good 30-minute song. Shaka Khan's going to give you about 20 minutes.
That's a good point.
You're going to get.
I might have to concede this point.
You're going to get. That's going to be an extensive funeral.
But he's actually what? He's white. Like,
Yeah, but not. Look at that photo again. Look at that photo again. Does he really? Look at that. He cool looking, trimmed up beard, possibly fathering a child out of wedlock.
That's
Wearing a
nice
music
looking at
record shop
Chris.
T-shirt.
Oh,
He
really?
is so cool. You
a
know
good
what?
head
I
of
ain't gonna
hair.
even lie. You know what you should do? You should really tell people, like, don't even tell them that it's Michael McDonald. Be like, oh, it's just here, me and my dad, and see if anybody goes, bro, that's Michael McDonald. Michael McDonald's your dad, and people they're gonna look at you and go, oh my God, you're Michael McDonald's son. Sorry, Larry Dog. I'm not. I love Larry Dog. He knows I love him, but I'm just saying, JPD's a beautiful lady. She likes going to concerts. She probably was like, hey, I can't.
Chris's lips just keep getting tighter and tighter and turning, and he just making that sound, and that's it. As you were talking for like the last 60 seconds, I've been watching this. He's got nothing else. He's just pressing them lips together and making a sound.
Okay. There it is. Huge shout out to Brian Owens and the
Absolutely.
the whole team for
Absolutely.
the amazing thing last night.
You guys
So
did a great job. It was a lot
They
of
did.
fun.
They did. They put it together. And the Two Hill at UMSL there's so much going on there. It's crazy.
The UMSL area in general has changed drastically over the last 10 years, and just to even know some of the alums that have come over to University of Missouri St. Louis over the last handful of years, it is very impressive. What they've done to that area is amazing. And again, these type of events are why it's important to truly give back to the community, because you can begin to see it. And as Brian pointed out last night, like this is how you change the narrative. And it's very easy. We talked about this when we had Brian on the show. It's easy for everybody to have an opinion of what they think about the St. Louis metro area and, of course, Ferguson, but not a lot of people are willing to put their energy and their time and even their money into finding solutions to improve the greater St. Louis area. And last night, a lot of people did indeed put their money where their mouth was, and they donated, and they bought gift bags, and they bought T-shirts. And so that's the kind of energy that you're going to need to change the narrative that Brian was talking about. And that's why I truly enjoyed the evening. Not only was it great music, but it felt communal. It felt like a real community event. People were excited to see each other. Even after the event, people were mingling in the lobby, talking to each other. It felt like real fellowship. So it's a testament to Brian and the hard work that he has put into this organization and into that night. And it was a very fun St. Louis-y night. It felt, and I mean, Brian, and he said it during the performance, and you loved it. He said he looked out to the audience, had the house lights on, and pointed to everybody and said, "This is St. Louis." And he was right. And there were people, white, black, Hispanic, Asian, young, old, church folks, non-church folks. People were there. And so it was really cool to see. That is St. Louis. That was St. Louis last night. And I hope going forward that the community continues to not only invest in itself, but can encourage everyone else who maybe are outside those communities to also start to give back. So again, salute to everyone who made that evening possible. It was truly a lot of fun.
There it is.
Yeah.
Look at you. Travis Terrell enjoying a great show last night.
It was a St. Louis-y weekend, my friend, because
What else happened?
Brian Owens wasn't the only winner in the Lou. So are your St. Louis Cardinals. The gateway to the West is now gateway to the best team in the National League Central, the St. Louis Cardinals. Bringing home the division title for the first time in 2015, Chris. The City of Champions continues to grow after the Blues, of course, winning the Stanley Cup this summer. The St. Louis Cardinals bringing home their division title. Look at that. City of Champions indeed. The Redbirds finishing 2 games ahead of the Milwaukee Brewers, who ended up getting swept by the Rockies. In fact, the St. Louis metro area, when people travel over the next handful of months, they need to make sure they put Colorado, specifically Denver, on the itinerary and purchase as much of what is to offer in the Colorado area as possible because we owe them huge.
Weren't you saying you weren't sure the Brewers were going to lose again?
I was on the record. I said they weren't. And trust me, it looked like.
Noted Cardinal fan, Travis Terrell.
Being realist, did you expect Hader to end up throwing just 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th? The Brewers were up, was it 2-1 or 3-2?
Something like that.
3-2. It was a 1-2 pitch, and I forget the batter, but he took it opposite field to tie the game in the 9th. And Trevor Story hits the walk-off in extras to beat the Brewers, to allow the Cardinals to make it to Sunday, where all they had to do was win, which they did from a stellar performance from Jack Flaherty. The Cardinals blew out the very listless Chicago Cubs 9-0 to capture the National League Central Division title. Cubs, of course, on the free fall of their own. Joe Maddon's out as the manager, so they'll be making some wholesale changes, it sounds like. But it's really cool to be on the opposite end of this one after years past where the Cubs have been the pain in the side of the St. Louis Cardinals. And
After you were sure they were going to lose the division.
and it was pretty damn close. It took some crazy circumstances for the.
After I told you it'll be all for.
You
all
said
right.
I look. I'm going to do something that people who offer opinions don't often do. I take responsibility for me making a prediction.
Why is it that even when you're appearing to try and put on the facade of being humble in a moment, that I still just like, I sit here and I just wonder. I'm like,
'Cause it
what made
happens-
you this way?
Because it happens so often.
Okay.
It's normalized.
I don't think that's
Right.
fair.
Chris, you've now been ingrained in the way of Travis Terrell, and you're a human with normal senses, so you pick up on it.
Apologize to this man.
I apologize. Look at Mo.
drenched.
Does he know his shirt's wet?
Yeah.
Oh
Ben
man,
Boyd.
he is not going to be happy.
Ben Boyd over at KMOX snapped this shot, I think.
What a great photo of John Mozeliak, president of baseball operations for the St. Louis Cardinals. I have given him tons of heat over the last couple of years in regards to the way he's operated, in regards to the St. Louis Cardinals personnel. He stood pat during the trade deadline,
That's a good look.
and look,
Got
it
a good
worked out.
Tom Jones feel.
He
out this,
does,
I
and
don't
he
know.
was. There was a moment that was captured. I think our good friend Charlie Marlowe interviewing Mozeliak yesterday in the locker room, and there was a really cool moment where Dexter came over and poured some beer on him, and then Yachty came over, and by the way, Yachty always operates like there isn't a camera around. That's why I love him the most, because he just goes, I don't give a damn. I'm going to talk and say what I
Did you
want
see
'cause
where
I'm Yachty.
Dexter and Mo were like, we wish Mike was here?
I don't think that.
Oh,
don't
that
think
didn't
happened.
happen?
That didn't happen, unfortunately.
Did you think they like told Jim Matheny was a dick?
But you could tell, but there was a really cool moment even between Mo and Yachty, and it was just you can tell there was an understanding. Like,
Do you
hey man,
think-
we've been through a lot.
Do you think
and
Colton Wong went up to Mo and was like, thank you for not trading me to Kansas City like Travis Terrell wanted to get a lefty reliever that would probably
No,
be in the
I
minors
actually
right
was.
now
I was
for-
nope. I have been from day one, even after everyone completely lost their marbles when he got picked off in the 2013 World Series against the Boston Red Sox. I have always been a Colton Wong guy. I always thought the Cardinals should be patient with him. I was never ever a part of the chorus of getting rid of Colton Wong, and I think the Cardinals' patience. I think Mo is going to get a ton of credit for this, and whether it's fair or not, we can always debate. But he stood pat.
That's true.
He was patient with Dexter Fowler. He was patient with Colton Wong. And he was patient to a fault with Matt Carpenter. And I still am curious how he's going to play out here in the playoffs. But I think the fact that he trusted his manager, he trusted the guys, and he made some points throughout the year that he can fall back on and say, these guys just need to be performing better. And boy, did they ever. Specifically, of course, guys like Dakota Hudson and, of course, last night's winner and potential Cy Young winner, Jack Flaherty. He's just been historically lights out. I think I heard this morning from Jimmy the Cat Hayes that since the All-Star break, He's had a sub-1 ERA. I think it's .89 ERA from his starts
Flaherty?
since
Somebody-
Jack
yeah.
Flaherty since the All-Star break. So when you have that type of historic performance and the young guys in the rotation step up and a bullpen that was very solid up until last week, so perform as well as they had, it worked out for the Cardinals. They had some fortuitous moments that, Javi Baez going down, Rizzo going down, Chris Bryant struggling for the Cubs, the Brewers themselves struggling as well. But the Cardinals did what they were supposed to do. They beat up on the teams they were supposed to win, and it paid off in the end. And the Redbirds are now sitting pretty, celebrating. Is that Chris's hero, Tyler O'Neill?
I don't know why he's my hero, but
Because
he was
he-
for sure John Smoltz's hero.
Jesus
Were
Christ.
you listening
look,
to that?
look at his stomach. That's not. He's got 22 abs.
Were you guys watching the game? Was it
Well, Saturday?
Saturday? They really, when he came in to pinch hit, Smoltz. I know Smoltz tries to be goofy or whatever. He was he's really ripped.
He is, but look at him.
They did 10 minutes on his physique. I
But
was like,
seriously, look
"You've
at this
seen
kid.
muscles before.
Have you seen abs like that? He literally has 14 abs.
Yeah, there are abs on abs there.
That's insane. But good for that baseball club that is, man, they've gotten some necessary heat from the fan base over the last few seasons. And especially a guy, and I'm happy even for a guy like Dexter Fowler. Like that home run yesterday was huge for the Cardinals, and I thought was huge for him. I believe he broke a 0 for 14, 0 for 15 streak at that moment. But I'm happy for those guys because, again, Dexter kept saying all last year, when I'm healthy and you give me consistency, I will produce. And he went out and hit a career-high 19 home runs this season. So I'm happy that the Cardinals trusted him. I'm happy for guys like Colton Wong, even though he's missed the last week, and it sounds like he'll be good to go come Thursday against Atlanta. I'm happy for those guys, and I'm happy for a guy like Mike Schultz as well, a guy who has sat in the shadows for a very long time, paying his dues, and for him to have this moment is really cool as well. And I'm happy for the city because the good times will be had. Today they're opening up the Ferris wheel and the
They've got a whole media
festivities
thing going on over there
downtown.
right
So
now.
St.
The timing
Louis
was not
is
perfect
the,
for
the,
us.
Yeah, so it's a whole buzz now downtown. The Blues are getting started here soon.
Is the Ferris wheel galvanizing?
It is going to galvanize the metro area. So no,
Good for the entertainment in the area too. A
It's
lot
gonna
of
be
people
great for the
getting
bars.
drinks and food on the way
I think
down.
the ice cream shop is opening up as well this
What's
this
more
week.
important, the Blue Stanley Cup run or the opening of the Ferris wheel? I mean,
Man, every local media outlet was down there this morning.
it's like when IKEA opened.
Yes, it is very much. There were overhead aerial drone shots.
Yeah.
10 a.m. Central Time here in St. Louis is when you'll have an opportunity. I don't care for the ticket prices. It's $10 for children, $15 for adults. Let's relax, everybody. It's a Ferris wheel.
See what we can do.
We're
need to
over
get
there.
you on that.
We our friend Preacher Lawson, who was on Friday, which go back and listen to that if you haven't. Great conversation.
Such a good guy.
We went. He did this video thing that we helped with, and we went over to a rock climbing place near there. It looks really cool because we were right by it. But yeah, I think it'll be even. I was gonna say it's gonna be about like the Arch, like for people that live here. You'll hit it up once and you'll never. I mean, it's a cool tourist thing. It looks good in the skyline. I mean, I don't.
And it's
I don't know.
open, and
I've
it's
never-
open every day.
I,
all
I
year.
like that
Arch.
it's there. I think it's cool.
It's open all year.
What'd you say?
I've never been in the Arch.
Not once. I think I've been up once.
Yeah, I went once as a kid. I haven't been back since.
Yeah, we
That's
had
a
time
little
to
bit.
kill during Hoop It Up.
There you go.
There it is.
That's about right.
All right.
So shout out to the Lou this weekend. St. Louis it's on its way. You got some playoff baseball coming here soon. You got the Stanley Cup champions starting their season. You got some great things happening at Union Station. I think the aquarium will be opening also here in the next month and a half, and it's a good time to be in the
Mini
city.
golf opens today too.
Mini golf is actually opening today as well in
big.
the area. That is very big. So
That's bigger than the Ferris wheel to me.
St. Louis is going to be a buzz over the next few weeks, certainly in the downtown area, because the Cardinals are at least assured one playoff game back at Busch, and that would take place next Sunday. That will take place here at Busch, about 5 minutes here from our lovely Midcoast Media studio. Very excited about that. Now we don't have to go waist deep into sports this morning, but I'm curious, since we have been making predictions about, because I thought the Cardinals were going to slip up and lose the division and would have to play a wild card game, but now that we know they're going to play in the National League Division Series against the Atlanta Braves, what chances are you giving the Redbirds?
they'll win the World Series. It doesn't matter what I think, so predictions are.
They are playing with house money. When the Cardinals play with house money, they tend to perform better in the playoffs. I think the Braves are the favorite. I think the Cardinals have had
Pitching actually sets up pretty good for the series.
It does. You're looking at a situation where you could maybe go Hudson or Mickelson, game one.
Probably Michaelis.
Probably Michaelis. You probably have to see the matchups. A lot of the rotation outside of Flaherty doesn't pitch very well.
You'd probably go Hudson and Wainwright at home. So you'd probably go Michaelis, Flaherty, Hudson, Wainwright, and then if Game 5 is needed, you go back to Jack Flaherty.
Correct.
So
I think while the Braves are also dealing with their injuries, I saw Freeman and Acuna have been rested over the last few games. But I think if we're looking at it from an objective point of view, I got Braves 3-1.
Okay. I'll go Cardinals 3-1.
Oh.
Yeah.
Edging, Chris.
Embrace debate. This is how you do sports talk radio. Now I take the opposite viewpoint.
Yep.
And now we argue about it.
Mm.
It doesn't matter what I believe.
I'll take Cardinals.
Okay.
There it is.
There you go.
Somehow. They'll do it. And somehow we'll connect you with St. Louis Counseling Services.
Waiting for which one?
stlouiscounseling.org online is how you find out about their services in the St. Louis area. They've been improving lives since 1955. That's right. St. Louis Counseling. They also have a podcast with Tom Duff, Mental Health Matters. You can find it online. That's right. Download it on iTunes, wherever you get your podcasts, or check out the website. Like I said, stlouiscounseling.org. The podcast lives on there as well. And if you're an individual or someone in charge of a business who can put your people with counselors, hit them up. St. Louis Counseling, right here in St. Louis. We had a poll that we need to get results from, right? We had a melee.
We did have a melee.
In the morning, yeah.
We had a melee we put out last week. Which one of these punctuation marks is a hyphen? 8% voted for the apostrophe. 92% voted for the hyphen. So 92% got it correct. Congratulations. So
with the 8% just trying to mix it up and be Mavericks.
I don't know. Maybe they're just team apostrophe. They don't like hyphens. Not a fan of hyphens. Maybe they prefer using two words instead of combining them. They like separating them. Maybe it's just how they like it to look.
How many voters were there, you recall?
I do not recall, actually. I just looked strictly at the results. That, of course, came from we had that poll after this tweet from the president last week, describing tweet, where he mistook a apostrophe for a hyphen. So we turned that into a poll question, and 92% got it correct.
There you go.
So when I congratulate them, the other 8%, I assume you just have a disdain for the hyphen.
Typical liberal. Speaking of which,
Oh, boy.
we all know on this particular program that Chris Denman is one of the biggest bleeding liberals that you'll probably hear on most podcasts.
Bleeding liberals or bleeding heart?
Well, he just bleeds.
Okay.
Fact of the matter is, Chris is very much for cancel culture. He wants to cancel people right and left. Any chance he gets, he's like, oh, you blink at a black person? Canceled. Sneeze at a woman? Canceled. That's Chris Denman.
I've advocated for it to be called Denman.
Denman.
How much I support it.
We talk about it, especially when it comes to comedians and about comedians, what they can and cannot say, the liberties they can play with in regards to race and sex and religion when it comes to performing. And everyone has an opinion, and we've heard from notable comedians on the issue. And we actually got an opinion from someone who really doesn't give his opinion on comedy a lot. And I love the fact that he's starting to open up about the craft and the industry, and he did so recently. And that, of course, is Eddie Murphy, who talked about his comedy, of course, from the 80s, early 90s, much of his stand-up, and how it necessarily hasn't aged well. And Eddie kind of acknowledged that. And in a recent interview, he said he expresses remorse for ignorant jokes in Raw and Delirious. Now, Raw and Delirious are considered two of the greatest live comedy shows in the history of the genre. So it's very, very interesting that he would essentially jump in his time machine and go back to those moments to offer a self-critique. In an interview with the New York Times, Eddie Murphy discussed the past few decades in preparations for his impending return to the spotlight. Over the next year, Murphy, of course, will be appearing as Rudy Ray Moore in Dolomite Is My Name, and he will host Saturday Night Live for the first time in 35 years and star in the sequel to Coming to America. Murphy apparently will record a Netflix special sometime next year, but he talked about going through personal issues and how that came out in his performances when he was doing Delirious and Raw. He said, I was young guy processing a broken heart, I was kind of an a-hole. He talked about his homophobic material in his specials, and he acknowledged that it just was ignorant. He said at the time, I was going through a lot, and the way I expressed myself perhaps wasn't appropriate, I now have a whole lifetime of experience to draw upon. There was a time when I was at the center of everything, what I was doing and how funny I was and how popular. I'm not at the center. Now my kids are everything that revolves around me. So he's very self-reflective as to where he is now as opposed to where he was then. And I think this sort of, for me, goes back to what I have been saying about even the Kevin Harts or the comedians of the past. There was a time where a lot of that rhetoric was fine. And he even talked about in his New York Times interview about how he talked about AIDS and how he was very reckless in his comedy about how people got AIDS and how AIDS was transmitted. And he again acknowledged that at that time we didn't know anything about AIDS, so it was one thing to be reckless, but
There was a hysteria that was created.
right. And he talked about how he essentially contributed to that hysteria. And I think it's okay for comedians of the past to say, you know what, there was a time where we did that. And now looking back on it, now having a better understanding, yeah, that
But
was it was too far. And again, it isn't
I
to say
wouldn't put just comedians in that group.
true. Very no, not at all. And I'm just saying it for the sake of this conversation. You're right.
I would hope that me being 40 now, when I look back at 25-year-olds,
Yes.
like, oh, okay, yeah.
And I think to that point, that's where I am curious as to why some comedians are so willing to continue to hang their hat on the quote-unquote craft when it's okay to acknowledge that some material that you use for whatever reason. But now that you understand that that type of rhetoric can be a little bit too far or go beyond the reach of comedy, I don't understand why you wouldn't then go back and say, you know what, I could have maybe said that differently, or maybe I don't say that joke in that way now. And I think Eddie, for a lot of comedians with this interview, provides a template going forward that it's okay, guys. Even your best stuff that may have been very ignorant, you can acknowledge was indeed ignorant. It's okay. And I hope now with Eddie Murphy being how revered he is in the industry, I hope this opens the eyes to everyone else. Because if Eddie can do it, I think the rest of us other comedians underneath him can acknowledge that let's recognize the context in which we're saying some of these jokes. What are your
Travis Trill,
thoughts?
everybody.
He didn't go on Rogan to give this interview, so I know that may
Yeah, I
change
don't respect it. No, it's if you have people are allowed to look back on the way things were or take different perspectives and all of that, and if you are going into hosting Saturday Night Live, there's also some damage control that you might want to do. So I don't care if he actually feels like that or not. It's probably pretty smart.
I agree. Definitely very smart. And I think, again, I hope other comedians, and this is kind of the route I was thinking a guy like Kevin Hart was going to take. And I'm very surprised that, I don't know, and to your point, yes, Eddie's rolling out a lot of projects here in the next 12 months. Like I said, we got 2 big movies. One, from what earlier views are in regards to Dolomite, some say could be something to consider for award season. So, again, maybe he's laying the groundwork for that. But, again, he also mentioned in the interview that he doesn't really care about all that too much. He kind of wants to get back on the road to do some shows, probably do another special. But he's spoken with this even with Seinfeld. He was like, man, I'm with the grandkids most of the time. I'm just hanging out with the kids most of the time. That's why I have so many. He's like, I just enjoy the company of my family. So I think he's the kind of guy that doesn't need this. He doesn't need to do a sequel to Coming to America. He doesn't need more money. He doesn't need more notoriety and fame. And in fact, I would say his legend has grown the least we see of him.
That'll happen with a lot of people.
Yes. So again, here's a guy.
Leave them wanting more.
Leave him wanting more. Yeah, and that's one thing that you have to specialize as a comedian. Eddie has done just that. So I'm excited. I'm happy to see that he's out. He's a person for me that the reason why I started loving movies and loving comedy is because of a guy like Eddie Murphy, because he was just such an incredibly entertaining individual. So to have him back in the game, I'm very excited for. And I'm also very excited that he was very open about his past, because if you've seen Raw and Delirious now in 2019, it is, and I think he even used the word cringy. I think he said it is kind of cringe. And again, that's a guy that's been, some would say, the best to ever do it. Some would say Eddie Murphy may be one of the best overall comedians of all time. So if one of the best can say, yeah, looking back on it, probably not I wasn't in the right mind. That was very eye-opening to me.
Why are you looking at me like that?
I was hoping we can somehow book Eddie. Can you make that happen?
If his name's not Keith Morrison, Gardner ain't on it right now.
Speaking of the devil, we all talked about our weekends. Gardner, what did you do with yours?
A couple things.
Okay.
Yesterday, actually, I watched a little bit of an NFL game.
Shut up. How many quarters?
What's wrong with you?
Like a quarter.
Of NFL professional football.
Yeah,
What happened? Were you lost?
No, I was kind of forced to.
You must have been at a friend's house.
No, I went down to Missouri Bar and Grill to see Sean.
Hey-o.
Are you guys dating?
I went to have lunch down there.
Oh, okay. Well, he is kaput down there. Too.
Yeah, wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Good God.
But
He said kaput. You're such an ass. Apologize to Sean.
That's what he
No,
said.
that's what
It's a
he
direct
said.
quote.
Yeah.
Good God.
I got to that bathroom.
I went down there to have the stroganoff burger.
Oh, boy. That's nice. Oh, boy.
But it's also the official Buffalo Bills bar of St. Louis.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Shut up. I didn't know there was a Buffalo Bills bar in St. Louis.
Yeah, that's where they have their watch party.
Oh, how many are there?
And I used to be a Bills fan.
Oh, wow.
That's the team I rooted for.
Is it more than 10 people?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I have to go check this out.
Bills Mafia was down there.
That's scary.
The bar actually recently got like a certificate from the Bills for
Shut up.
Bills
Really?
Mafia,
That's really dope.
because Sean went to Walgreens to buy a frame to have it framed to hang
That's awesome.
in the bar.
That's really cool.
So I went down there for lunch, and the Bills were playing the Patriots, and I'm just gonna eat my food, have a couple cigarettes, do whatever, and Sean brings up to someone, like a couple that's probably a few years younger than me,
Right.
that are Bills fans, sitting next to me. He's like, "Yeah, he used to be a Bills fan," and the girl's like, "What do you mean used to be?" And I'm like, "Oh, I gotta have the conversation."
Here we go.
So he's like, "Hey, don't watch the NFL no more," and so I had to explain a little bit.
Were they at least sympathetic to you?
Yeah,
not watching
they
the NFL?
kind
No,
of
they
understood. They're like,
Okay.
well, you can, you're here today, and I go, here's what I'm not rooting for. I'm not rooting for the Patriots, so whatever happens here while I'm
Right.
here is fine. Okay, but I'm not investing myself again in anything.
Did anything in that
I was
quarter?
like, I don't even want the NFL to have another team here in St. Louis ever again, forever.
Which is fair. I would not. I'm
So-
on the same page with you on that. Was there anything
They
in that
apparently
quarter?
gave Sean like a Buffalo Bills shirt.
Really?
And it's got a little Bills emblem on it and some other things on it. But he was telling me about it. He's like, yeah, I've worn it a couple of times. I haven't washed it yet. I
Oh,
can
boy.
probably smell it. I probably should
Oh,
wash
boy.
it or something like that. But Sean's uncle actually used to own a bar in Buffalo called like Brennan's Bowery Bar.
Right.
Which is I guess it was pretty well known up in Buffalo for a long time. So he's got some ties there. So the Bills Mafia was out, and I had lunch and watched about a quarter of football, and then left. But I also, on Friday night, cut out of the bar scene early, made sure I got home to watch a 2-hour special on Dateline.
You watched Dateline? Was there a particular story that they were showcasing?
Oh.
The thing about Pam.
Would you say this is best thing that's happened to you in the last
It
decade?
was fun.
In the last 10
Oh.
years, good God.
Not for the other people involved, obviously, but she might have killed 3 people.
So how much more of a deep dive did they go into the Pamela Hupp situation? And if you don't mind,
were
can you
kind of-
can you give a brief recap?
It's hard to do,
Let's
a,
do
recap
a brief
for
recap?
this
Okay.
thing. Let's
All right,
just
then.
say this. She might have killed 3 people,
Okay.
Oh, no.
including her mother,
Oh, Jesus.
her best friend, possibly, and then tried to set up her best friend's husband for the crime. He got convicted. That was overturned. He was never tried again. Or I guess they went through the evidence to see if they were going to try him again.
So she set up the husband and he
then-
got convicted, and then that was ultimately overturned?
Yeah.
What a twist.
And then she killed another gentleman trying to set that husband up again to make it look like he
he
had put a
killed
hit out on
the
Pam
person-
Hupp.
Oh,
on
wow.
her. So there's all that going on. Plus,
Jesus.
she faked being a Dateline producer while she was trying to set up that
Oh,
third
no.
murder, to a number of people, as
What a
they
delightful story.
testify. It is, it is something, and they put a nice bow on it. Here's her most recent mugshot.
She's lost weight.
She has. She looks a little different than she had before. Pam Hupp.
She had it's hard to recognize her without the neck brace.
She did.
It's hard to recognize
was-
you when you don't resemble
it
Charlize
was-
Theron in Monster.
Yes.
It was gauze after she stabbed herself in the neck with a pen after this last thing went down.
Oh, boy.
So yeah, there was that, and of course
There he is, the legend.
Keith Morrison was
Keith
involved.
Morrison.
Of course, this is the 28th season, the premiere, the 28th season of Dateline. So Keith was on his game. I will say that there were a couple of things that did make me laugh in this episode. One was it was from an interview with Pam Hupp from the investigators, and she was coming up with this BS story about how she was being intimate
Oh, no.
Betsy Faria, who
Oh,
was
boy.
the lady who was killed.
Oh, no.
But she was trying to explain how weird it was that they were intimate because they're really into men. And here's the explanation.
Okay.
First interview on her relationship with Betsy.
You describe your friendship as best friends, or
Betsy had a lot of best friends.
New interview. Same question.
I knew the most intimate of family stuff from her.
Intimate? Yes. In this brand new story, Pam cast herself not just as Betsy's friend, but as Betsy's lover.
I replaced what a husband would be. It's honestly a relationship with 2 women who really aren't attracted to women. I don't know how to explain that. It's not, I'm attracted to men. Love everything about them. Can't wait till Magic Mike XL comes out.
Excuse me?
Wait.
That's part of her story.
I was not ready for that last
I know,
line.
you should have been.
And I...
To prove you're attracted to men,
Oh, that is...
you say you can't wait for Magic Mike XL to come out.
That is... What is this story and why does it exist in our world?
What's happening?
She was explaining being gay, and then
But she's not really gay.
But she's not really gay because she cannot wait until Magic Mike XL comes out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hey, man. Whew.
It was
The producers over at Dateline have to go, people are not going to buy this story.
The next time you're with a gentleman, please be sure to explain that you love the Sports Illustrated swimsuit issue when it comes out.
Like me and Chris were very intimate. I would replace what a wife would
Chris
normally do.
Gardner.
We
Chris
were very
Gardner, yes.
close. We would hang out. We would even share a couch from time to time. But I was into women because I have the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition coming to my mailbox, and I'm looking forward to it.
Coincidentally, Gardner also took things to your mailbox.
Oh, boy.
so
Good
no,
God, that's outstanding. I didn't know that was going to be a line. I don't even.
no.
That's how I'm going to start doing things from here on. I mean, I really like her. I think she's a lovely girl, but I'm gonna be honest. I can't wait till Magic Mike XL comes
Yeah.
out. Well, what
I
is
just
that?
think dropping that in conversation now.
Drop that in.
So that one, I kind of chuckled at that.
That is
What they
outstanding.
did do is they started getting in. I mean, they did mention some of the things that have happened recently. Off the hook now in terms of a lawsuit are the judge from out in Troy, Missouri, and the prosecutor, who was an absolute disaster.
Really?
Through secondhand information, I know someone who was deciding some things in this case after the fact in terms of overturning it. And apparently they thought they had no idea what the police or the prosecutor were thinking, or even the judge. So this thing was a mess to begin with, and the path it took immediately was wrong, just flat out wrong. But I mentioned the mother in between this, like she apparently had a accidental death at one point, but I now believe it's classified as undetermined.
Scary.
She was
I never want to go out like that.
She was living at a senior citizens home, and apparently had a fall from her third-story balcony and
As
and
happens
died.
all the time, yeah.
Pam was the last one to see her alive, and they kind of did some forensics, some demonstrating on Dateline to show that it was going to take much more of a force than her falling to break the bars where she apparently went through, and also she had like a lot more Ambien in her than she should have at the time of her passing. And once again, Pam, the last one to see her alive. But when you've seen Bill Hader do his Keith Morrison impersonation.
We have.
He does a good thing, or kind of a funny thing, where he sets up like a punchline in a way. It's not a punchline, but sets up a line at the end of an interview. He did that kind of how Bill Hader impersonates him this go around, and I had to laugh at that too. So Bill Hader will be like, blah, 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 and then the guy came at me and he shot me. And then Bill Hader goes into his Keith Morrison and be like, shot you a look? So something like that. It's just kind of like, what? Okay. Keith did that. And this is, I think they were going back to some old footage, but brought some back when Keith is interviewing Robert Patrick of the Post-Dispatch, who covers crime and stuff like that. And this was about the mother's death. So listen at the end for just the line Keith uses. It's kind of Hader-esque like that. Like, and then he shot me. Shot you a look? So listen at the end for this one, but some setup as well.
Pam's mother, Shirley, 77, lived in a retirement complex one county over. Until Halloween 2013, almost 2 years after Betsy was murdered, Shirley was killed in a fall from her third-floor balcony. Pam had been the very last person known to have seen Shirley alive the day before. That's when she told the staff that her mother would not be coming down for dinner or for breakfast in the morning. They found her body the next afternoon. A couple of the bent and broken spindles from her balcony railing were lying nearby. It was sometime later when Robert Patrick of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch heard about it.
One of the staff members came into her apartment and noticed the water was running, and I think she noticed that the patio door was ajar. There were some things that were kind of knocked around, and then some of the railings had been dislodged.
So then she went and looked over?
And then she looked over and saw the body.
Must have been quite a shock for that housekeeper.
Yes.
He just throws it in there. Like, you don't even see it coming. He's like, here's the description, and then, must have been quite a shock for that housekeeper. And then what else?
Are you trying to get a laugh out of him, Keith?
So then what's the guy going to say? He's like, yes. He's like, I think, yeah, I'm sure.
Yes, anyone would be startled.
You don't see it coming. He just slides it in there. You got the setup. You're telling the story. You're giving some details. Must have been quite the shock for that housekeeper. Bam, and he hits you with it. So I laughed at those two moments while watching them put a bow on this Pam Hupp story, so we get updates.
And now it's going to be a part of their true crime podcast as well.
They already have it.
Unbelievable.
They have a thing about Pam podcast already out.
So for those who listen to us and have heard us talk about Keith Morrison and this particular story out of the St. Louis area, highly suggest that you follow this. To Gardner's point, it's very difficult to recap because it is a long, winding story that has popped up in the St. Louis news. It feels like every other year for about 8 years.
I chatted with a couple of Dream Team members about it recently. One gave me some info on one thing, and then another I had met Keith because she was a coworker with Russ Foria's lawyer, Joel Schwartz, who was highlighted heavily in interviews throughout this episode as well, discussing what was going on.
Any other cool shots of St. Louis in the video?
No, they were kind of going for that suburbs look with it.
Okay.
They were trying to let you know, hey, this is on the outskirts.
Did at any point you go, oh, I know that highway?
Well, yeah, because, she committed the third murder, alleged third murder, I guess we could be safe, in O'Fallon.
Woo! O'Fallon!
That was like when we were younger. We're on the news! Or when there were like 8,000 people when my family first moved there and oh, Mom, we're on the news. We got a tornado. They're saying there's a tornado coming our way.
Mm-hmm. I was like asking Alexis Zotos, I'm like, why do you set up in the Walmart parking lot of Farmington, Missouri anytime you're down there? It's just a bunch of, she's like, guaranteed to talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
Can't argue with that.
At one point, O'Fallon was kind of one of those tornado towns, as I call them, where you only get mentioned when there's a tornado coming and they need to warn you about it on the news. Like Prairie de Roche or whatever in Illinois. You only hear about it whenever there's a tornado coming.
Yeah. Well, there'll be a tornado of fun at Oktoberfest at Soulard Market this year. That's right. Travis Terrell and myself, I'm Chris Denman. We'll be hosting the festivities in the beer hall tent. You can get tickets for the VIP area. It's free and open to the public, but you can go online. They have tickets on Eventbrite. I just shared a link in the comments of our feed. Check it out. Travis?
Hey.
Oh, hello. Cheers. Guten Tag, sir. Oktoberfest 2019 will feature Open Air Plaza, Wine Garden, 7 bands, including who? Grammy Award. I hang out with only Grammy Award-winning musicians. Award-winning Brave Combo, axe-throwing activities, Stein holding competitions, and the return of Oktoberfest. St. Louis Low Brass Collective as well. Remember when I made the sousaphone joke and they were so literal? Like these brass folks were like, that's not a sousaphone. I was like, I didn't think it was a sousaphone. I was being silly. And they got
you were corrected, but I warned you.
Hey, these people ain't got to.
I said they are not going to get your sousaphone joke. I warned you. Like, no, man, it's going to be good. They're going to like it. And you got ridiculed. And I was like, I tried to tell you, man. I tried to do a sousaphone joke one time when I was in St. Joe, Missouri. I was doing comedy, and they did not care for it. So I warned you.
Oktoberfest, Soulard Market Park, Friday, October 11th, starts at 4 p.m., goes till 11. Saturday, October 12th, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Again, come hang out with us. Have a great time. And get your Oktoberfest on. We'll take a quick break. It's We Are Live at Midcoast Studio in Grand Center, St. Louis, Missouri. Chris Denman, Travis Terrell, and Chris Gardner will be right back after the menthol break.